Hello and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. And I'm joined here with the man who, unlike Phillip Rivers, will never retire, we hope. Kyle, how are you doing?
I'm doing very good, thank you. I'm not planning on retiring anytime soon. And just so the audience knows, we did not plan this gray shirt thing. We didn't plan to match for this one. We just happenstance.
Right, totally. Good one. Way to go, Kyle. They're not going to buy it. They'll buy it now. No
Yeah,
way
I
to
know.
believe. It is funny how if we ever wear a similar colored shirt, that's like half the comments.
Yeah, I mean, it happened, so.
Yeah, there's only like I have like 3 different colors in my closet. But yeah, so we have a fun show prepared. #fun show. We're going to talk about obviously the 2 championship games. We'll also get into Phillip Rivers and his retirement. We have some potential storylines that could come out of this week. I see Thomas Moore. I'm wearing a gray shirt as well. So so everyone who is a fan should be wearing a gray shirt tonight. And also just letting everyone know, we will be live 11 Eastern for the championship recap. So be on the lookout. Same time as last time, but 1 hour earlier than usual. So be on the lookout for that. But yeah,
That's Sunday night, by the way.
yeah, Sunday night. Yeah. All right. So we got a lot to talk about. Kyle, so you didn't have a great week last week, but it was not horrible. Down 5 points. Remember, lowest score wins, like golf. And we have 20 points at stake. So it's not terrible. You're in a bit of a hole, but you can easily climb out of this.
Yeah, the Chiefs ending up holding on to that game probably saved me because I put a lot more points on that one than you. Helped me make up some ground. But we had 2 games that we were split on. So the first round of the playoffs, we had, I think, 2 games we were split on, and I won both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then this past week, we had 2 games split on, and you won both of them. So that means I'm just going to bounce back and get this one right. So I'm going to get both of these right and trump you, so I'm feeling good.
Okay, well, I'm not 100% sure about that logic, but let's get into it. And I think we're going to start off with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers heading down to the frozen tundra, Green Bay Packers. And first, we're going to pick the games, and then we'll just sort of get into all of the previews, talk about why we think certain things are going to happen and what to look out for. So first, I'm going to pick the game. I am going to go with my Tampa Bay Buccaneers. At this point, it's been working. I'm going to keep going with it. I really do feel like this is a coin flip game. It could go either way. But I know that, again, Kyle and I kind of talked about before the show, this pick things, it's almost like we're playing our opponent now as opposed to playing the picks so much. So I'm going to put 5 points on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because I'm up 5 and the possession arrow is on me. So this way, as long as I get the AFC Championship game correct, that means that I will at least get a pick who I think is going to win the Super Bowl. Whereas if you were ahead, then you'd get a pick. So I'm going to put 5 points on Tampa Bay. What do you have?
All right, so we kind of had the same strategy here. We went big on one game and small on the other. You went small on this game. I went big on this game. I said last Sunday night that I felt like the Green Bay Packers looked like a Super Bowl team. As I said, they looked like they were going to win the Super Bowl. I thought this team was talented enough. The matchup is a little frightening here, but with the way Rodgers is playing right now, I'm taking the Packers in this one, and I'm taking 14 points on this game.
Wow, 14 points. So this is huge right now. If the Buccaneers win this game, you will need not only for me to predict the Super Bowl wrong, but you'll need some points there as well because we're doing don't worry about it too much. We'll explain it when the Super Bowl happens. Kyle and I know. But so this is important. I'll give you the floor. What is it about this Packers team that you think can go to the Super Bowl?
I just think they're playing lights out right now. I think that they're playing their best football at the right time. I mean, the argument could be made that if you look at the last 5 weeks of the season and Kansas City as a whole, these have been the best 4 teams that finished the season. I just think Green Bay's playing lights out football. It's really hard to throw on them right now. I thought Goff had a little bit of success, but he wasn't able to really push the ball downfield as much as you'd like to, and as much as Tampa Bay, I think, likes to at times. I think that their passing defense is still going to be able to have success even in zone against Brady. I think that they're going to be able to throw the ball and still win matchups on the outside. The one question is can this Tampa Bay run defense slow down Aaron Jones? I think they can and they will, but I still think Green Bay's firepower is going to be enough to get this done.
Yeah, let's start with what you set up first, the pushing the ball down the field. I think that is a concerning thing for Tampa Bay is this Packers team has played some of that cover 2 zone that I think that's given Tampa Bay the most trouble this season, of having 2 safeties deep and really not allowing anything over the top. And you're forcing Tampa Bay to get these underneath stuff and the running game going, which, last week against New Orleans, which is a similar idea, although they play a lot more quarters, New Orleans was able to stop the run. New Orleans was able to stop a lot of these short passes. Not enough to win, but they were able to do a pretty good job at it. And you have to assume Rodgers isn't going to, the Packers most likely aren't going to turn the ball over 4 times in this one. But so let's start there. Do you think that this Tampa Bay team can be able to run the ball with playoff Lenny and Ronald Jones coming back? Or do you think that could that be where really this game is won or lost on that side of the ball?
Well, it certainly was kind of the combination of turnovers and being able to run the ball the last time they played the Packers was why they blew them out. Mm-hmm. Rodgers rarely ever commits turnovers, and they ran the ball. I think Jones I was looking at it here. They had 158 yards rushing total. Jones had 113 of those yards and 2 touchdowns. So that was the difference maker in the first game in getting that win. I think the Packers Ronald Jones, yes. Yes. I think the Packers run defense has gotten a lot better. So I think that it can. I still think that there's holes to get against this defense, but I think it's gotten better enough to where that they're not going to give up 158 yards on 4.5 yards a carry. I think I could see this as like kind of a 115 on like 4.2 yards per carry kind of thing. I don't think they're going to have as much success as they did earlier in the season. And I think Green Bay's improved in certain areas, while I have some questions still about Tampa Bay overall.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And this Packers defense is, again, we're talking about, funnily enough, both of these two matchups are rematches from week 6. They both played week 6. Now they're playing in the championship round. And I think the Packers defense has improved a ton since that time. And I think Christian Kirksey, again, we talked about, he had a big game in the divisional round. He could be a key piece. And again, you don't have to be great in the run game. You don't have to completely shut him down. Just don't allow them to get, these 7-yard, 8-yard runs consistently, and you're going to be fine. And I think that Green Bay has a good chance of doing that.
Yeah, I think they do. And then on the offensive side of the ball for Green Bay, I think it goes without saying this was probably week 6 was probably Rodgers and the Green Bay offensive line's worst game of the season. I think they gave up 5 sacks in that game. Rodgers didn't play very well. He threw two interceptions, and one was a pick 6. And I don't know. I know that they were able to have some success then, but I just don't see that happening twice against this team, right? I don't see them being able to find more success doing the same thing against them. I think the Packers come out with adjustments from that game and are able, if I'm going to bet on 2 quarterbacks, honestly, to play mistake-free football, that was the difference between the Bucs winning and losing against the Saints, is that Brady just said, I'm not going to be amazing, but I'm going to play mistake-free. I think he had 1 throw that could have been intercepted that entire game. And the rest of it, there weren't great throws out there, but it also wasn't catastrophic throws like Breeze was having. I think Rodgers, if the game's not going the way he wants, is going to do the same thing. I think he's just going to say, look, I'm not going to make a mistake in this one. I'm going to play smart football. And I think both of these quarterbacks can do that. And if that happens, I think that kind of favors the Packers. I believe in the talent in the team.
I think that there's a lot to unpack with the Bucs defense against the Packers offense. And I think that the first thing you sort of touched on this was the 5 sacks. This amazing stat, Green Bay only gave up 4 sacks all year against the blitz, but 3 of them were against Tampa Bay. And this is probably I would say this is the best blitzing team versus the best blitz protecting team. And, Tampa Bay got the better of that matchup the first time. And, it's possible Green Bay, that was just a fluke, and they're definitely going to have to put more focus on it. But Todd Bowles, he knows how to get pressure, regardless of what you do. He can find ways to get it done, and you have 2 of the best blitzing linebackers in the league with Levante David and Devin White. I said in my video, if you're Green Bay, you would love to be able to stop the blitz, but also game plan for some 2nd and 16s, game plan for some 3rd and 12s, because you might be in that situation.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, they have to be able to adjust in this one. I don't think they're going to be able to do everything they want, and I think Tampa Bay may have some success, but I still believe in Rodgers being able to get it done. And then the last part about this is I'm going with red zone offenses. I trust the Packers more in the red zone with the way they can use Adams and Jones and get them out in space, and even Tunyon, who's been a red zone monster this year. I believe in that team turning red zone opportunities into touchdowns. The Bucs, I think, had one red zone opportunity that wasn't off of a turnover, and they got a field goal out of that one late in the first half. And then they had the 2 turnovers that they ended up scoring on. But I just believe in that's something they also struggled against Washington in that pass rush with zone defense. If Green Bay is able to bring, the Smiths get after them, Rashawn Gary gets after them with that zone defense, I think Tampa Bay is going to have a tough time scoring inside the 20.
That's interesting stuff. Green Bay was the best at scoring touchdowns in the red zone. Tampa Bay, not awful, but they were 11th, so there is definitely a drop off. And at this point, when you're 11th in a stat, that feels like you're one of the worst in the league because there's only 4 teams left.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it wasn't even necessarily that they were 11th overall. It was just the last few weeks of the season. We started seeing these issues where they weren't getting Gronk has multiple passes. It just seems like get right off his fingertips. And, Evans isn't being able to get the separation that he needs sometimes in the red zone. I mean, I think he's still really good. So it's going to be interesting. So why are you picking the Bucs? What's your take on this one?
Well, I do think that the Bucs will be able to still get pressure with against Aaron Rodgers. And, one thing we haven't talked about at all, the run game. Aaron Jones had 15 yards on 10 carries the last 2 times they played. And now Tampa Bay, it looks like they're getting Vita Vea back, who didn't play in that Week 6 game, who's, the best run defender in the NFL. It seems like this game is going to have to be a lot of Aaron Rodgers converting third downs, which obviously he's Aaron Rodgers. He's great at that. But I also think another thing to talk about, I'm going to talk about 2 things here. Carlton Davis, who has really made a name for himself in these playoffs he's not the fastest corner, and you can beat him with speed. And I think that's what Davante Adams is going to have to do. But on these 3rd down and 3s with pressure coming, Davante Adams is going to have to take a second longer than Rodgers is used to get open. He'll be able to do it, but not as consistently as the Packers are used to, I think.
Yeah. And so last week we talked about it a lot. You were breaking it. You broke it down really well with Tampa's defense and how they had success against New Orleans by playing man and not zone. And then they kind of opened with a couple zone plays early, then switched to man pretty quickly, and obviously had a lot more success other than Jameis Winston catching them by surprise.
Right.
So do you think that's the game plan again? Essentially, you're going to stick with that man defense. And not only that, I thought a lot of why the man defense was successful was because I think these Tampa corners are really good athletes, and they're kind of like, wait, we just kind of have to defend 20 yards and in, and that's all we have to really worry about. You can't necessarily have that same success of saying, oh, we just have to defend 20 yards and in against Aaron Rodgers, because obviously he's Aaron Rodgers and not 40-year-old Drew Brees. So do you think they can have that same success in man defense against Green Bay?
Well, they definitely can't have that same success because the success they had last week was great. It's not going to be that way this time. I actually think we're going to see more zone than a lot of people realize in this one. The first, again, I'm going to talk a good amount about that Week 6 matchup. I know people like to say, well, it's so long ago, what does it matter? But you can still sort of see some of the X's and O's, how things are going. It's not necessarily like you can say, well, the Bucs won, so they're going to win again. But you can still, there are takeaways to learn from it. And, I think that the way that they played zone, the Packers really seem to be caught by surprise with this zone. And Todd Bowles can call up these zone blitzes. And you're forcing Rodgers, who was obviously a brilliant player, but you're forcing him to have to make these reads quickly. And I think that's the hope there. And that's also, I think that the game plan last time, Todd Bowles was just so much more prepared than Matt LaFleur was. It was Matt LaFleur's worst week of football. He didn't have very many bad weeks. That was one of them. I do think that's something that I find very interesting about the coaching matchup is this just they caught Matt LaFleur and the Green Bay Packers on an off week? Maybe they weren't, they were 5-0. Maybe they just thought they were going to coast. Or does Todd Bowles have LaFleur's number?
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the big question in this one. I'm struggling with it. I really am, because I struggled with this pick. But I was just trusting with the way the Packers looked the last few weeks and why I went with them. I think the one thing I'm interested in is because it did work in Week 6, but I think we take some stock in Week 6, but we also accept that things have changed and we have to understand what's changed. I think that the Packers have just gotten better. I think Rodgers has been more accepting to throw short, quick passes this year, especially later in the year than he has in the past. And I think that's going to be able to work. I just think it's a big risk against both of these quarterbacks blitzing. I think blitzing is going to be really tough against both of these quarterbacks. And if you do, I think they're going to still have success because these two quarterbacks have two of the fastest releases in the league. They both are really successful in quick passing game and finding these receivers and, man busting plays that get themselves some space. So which defense right now do I trust more to get pass rush with 4? I think that's the interesting question. The Bucs didn't have a sack last week where the Packers got 5 overall. Or no, excuse me. They got, I forgot how many they had. They had 3 or 4, I think, overall.
Well, also, I mean, going up against the Rams offensive line compared to the Saints offensive line.
100% agree. Yeah, I mean, I agree. But I think right now I'm trusting the Smiths and with the way Rashawn Gary's playing, I might trust them a little bit more than I do the Bucs right now.
But I think that's kind of again, the Bucs got pressure. They had a great success with the blitz the first time. I don't know if that's totally fair. I think that they will blitz. I don't totally buy into this fact that I don't totally agree that the Bucs are going to have to get pressure before. I think that the key to victory is probably them getting pressure with 5 or 6.
Yeah. I mean, it might end up being that. I just think that it's a chance for I think Rodgers could also easily torch them if they're not able to get there immediately.
Well, yeah, and you talk about the quick passes. I think that plays right into Tampa Bay's hands because these corners, the way to beat them is have time. The way to beat them is to take, have a minute and let these plays develop, and that's how you can get these explosives down the field. That's how you can, that's how Tyreek Hill had 200 yards in one quarter against Carlton Davis. It's speed and it's getting things over the top. In the first game, Aaron Rodgers went with a quick slant to Devontae Adams, a play that seemingly works 99% of the time. Carlton Davis tipped it up. It got intercepted, nearly returned for a touchdown. That was Rodgers' second. So you have to be careful. And, I do think that, while I agree that I think the Packers' key to success is to have these long developing plays, I also think they can do that, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I do think they can too, especially with the way Lazard's playing because he's such a good option going downfield too. Yeah, I mean, I do feel like this one's neck and neck. What was your score that you had for this game?
So the first time I picked it, I had the Packers winning when I made my video, and then before finishing it, I re-recorded and had the Bucs winning it. So that's how close I was with these two teams, and that's why I'm putting the minimum amount of points, or I guess the most points I can put without it really affecting me. And so I have, I said Buccaneers 30-27 in overtime, because let's be honest, Tom Brady always wins the coin toss in overtime.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, because I even feel like in the end of the day that LaFleur is a coaching advantage over Bruce Arians. But if this game gets down to 5 minutes and there's a 1-score game, and am I really not going to believe Tom Brady's going to find a way to win this? It's really tough. I have Packers 24-23 in the end. I think this is razor thin margins between these teams, and I think they match up really well. I think this is going to be a really fun game to watch.
Can we talk about Bruce Arians for a second?
Yes.
I don't know what game people are watching to say that this Bucs team has been poorly coached these past 7 weeks of football. The criticisms were fair earlier on, but I do feel and I don't know how much is Arians, I don't know how much is Brady, Todd Bowles, whatever, but it seems it's hard to really have too many complaints about the coaching at this point. I still think LaFleur is an advantage, but I don't think it's this giant advantage.
Well, I don't think he's as bad as people say, but I think at the same time, like you said, LaFleur is an advantage. I thought they did a really good job of adjusting. I talked about that ad nauseum basically throughout the entire second half of the season, how much this Bucs team adjusted their game plan and what they were doing to a more Brady-centric thing. And then as soon as they played the Saints, everything went back to the way it was in week 2. I felt like they were running a ton on first down. There was a heavy run on first down play. A 3rd-and-1 play, they throw the ball 30 yards down the field. They threw that Gronk corner route that seems like it's never completed right now. I mean, there was just a lot of things that I saw in that Saints game. It's oh, so we're doing this again? It's we learned for 8 weeks that this didn't work, and then they went back to it. If they go back to adjust to what they were doing the second half of the season, I feel pretty good. I feel better about the Bucs competing. But if they continue what they were doing against the Saints, I don't see them having much. I don't see them doing very well in this game. Yeah,
I think that you're probably right now that you say that. I think that, I personally sort of had the mindset of, it was a bad matchup, but there still were that 3rd and long, or 3rd and 1 going for a deep pass. I don't know if that was Byron Leftwich or if that was Brady, but either way, that's That can't happen. So you're right about that. I'll give you that point. Here's an interesting question. Do you trust Tampa in the snow? Kyle, do you trust Tom Brady in the snow? Tampa, man from Tampa.
Yeah, maybe his blood's thinned a little bit. I mean, I don't. I would love to see a study of. I don't have any in front of me, so I can't really say like with any conviction. I would love to see a study of like Southern United States teams traveling to like Green Bay and Buffalo and their record in like December and January. I mean, I don't know what the record would be. I'd be curious to see how that is, but I think they're going to be fine in the snow. I don't put too much onto that. I think the one thing could be like wind, but at the same time, I have no issue with the snow. I think it's going to be fine. And actually, that might favor. Sorry to interrupt you. That might favor Tampa Bay with the way they probably plan to run the ball compared to like they did against Green Bay in Week 6. That might help them in this one.
Yeah, no, I think that is. I mean, I'm kind of with you. I think there is something there. I don't think it's a massive thing, and obviously matchups wise, you would assume having to run the ball more would favor Tampa Bay. Although I think the flip side is that we just saw Aaron Rodgers have no problem throwing in the snow against Tennessee, so maybe that could be a factor. I mean, some of these Bucs receivers, like Mike Evans, he played at Texas. He's from Texas, played at Texas A&M, then gets drafted by the Bucs. So he's always been but it's impossible to really know. Odell Beckham Jr. struggled in the cold in that playoff game. It's possible, but for all we know, some of these Packers guys could struggle when it gets cold. I think it favors, and I think part of the reason this question is getting asked is because if you remember back in the early 2000 days of the Buccaneers, they could never win in the cold. They finally beat Philadelphia in their Super Bowl run, but they just kept getting knocked out when they had to play a cold weather team. But it's hard to say. And plus, I think sometimes that comes into factor because home teams typically win in the playoffs because they're typically the better team. So that's also, I think, part of what sort of skews the data.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that when we were talking about the 1 seed for the NFC during the regular season, the reason why I said home field was an advantage for Green Bay with the cold weather in January was kind of like speaking to if they played the Saints, because I thought the snow and cold weather would definitely affect those Drew Brees softballs that he's throwing out there throughout this season. Brady still has velocity. I don't think he's going to have a problem throwing in any weather. Same as Rodgers. We saw Rodgers do just fine with it. I don't think it's not like Rodgers is 25 either. I think Brady's going to be just fine with it too.
Yeah, I hope you're right. It should be interesting. Hey, who knows? Maybe Chris Godwin, that was his problem. His hands were too warm. Now to get his hands cold, he can catch again.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on with him. It's like, it'll be interesting to see if he can turn it around. I don't know what's going on with him. He's normally pretty sure-handed, so I don't know.
Yeah, I think the stat that came out was like he has more drops in this playoff run than he had in his entire career beforehand. Just crazy.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and so I guess last thought before we'll get to the other game. So I think the winner of this game, that's the true GOAT, correct?
Oh gosh, do we actually still have to do this?
We don't.
Universally accepted.
Yeah, it is.
Although it's interesting. So I was actually listening to this, and I thought this was a really good point. I don't remember who said it, so I'm sorry. Some TV person said it. They said that Brady had more at stake going into the playoffs, but probably has less to gain. And I think that's so true. I think Rodgers has a lot more to gain from this playoff run than Brady does, because if he wins a second Super Bowl and probably another MVP, I do think that's huge for him legacy. Like, I think Brady's proven what he basically needed to prove. But like, if he ends up winning the Super Bowl, it's just be like, okay, that's 7. That's nice. Like, does anybody actually, like, for legacy wise for Brady, does winning the Super Bowl actually mean anything?
Oh, I think the only reason, again, it's not like 6 is nice, but 7, that's really what would put it over top. But I think maybe the small thing would be just if he takes a different team to a Super Bowl and wins it. But either way, you are right. I think that would matter legacy wise. I also think we put too much stock into these things, anyways. But yeah, it should be an awesome game, and thank God we finally get Brady Rodgers in the playoffs.
Yeah, all we needed was the Packers to make it to a Super Bowl once in a while, and they couldn't do it.
Wow, shots fired at the Packers. All right, let's move on now.
I just picked them. I'm allowed a free shot.
Yeah, you get one shot if you pick them. I think that's how it works. Let's talk about the Bills Chiefs now. And Bills fans hate me now at this point, and honestly, fair enough, because I keep picking against them, even though I do think they're good. I just, I keep falling into the matchups and thinking that this team is going to. The Baltimore one I regret, the Indianapolis one I don't regret, but I'm going to just pick against them again. They can't hate me any more than they already do. And I'm going to go. The Chiefs are going to win. They're my pick, and I got to put a lot of the points on one of these two teams. It's not that I'm so confident the Bills are going to lose. I'm more confident that the Chiefs will win than the Bucs or Packers will win, or the Bills will win. So I'm putting 15 points on this game, and I'm just sort of hoping that if the Chiefs win, I will get the opportunity to pick who I think will win the Super Bowl next week for our final preview show. I got Chiefs, and I got 15 points on it. Kyle, what do you got?
All right, this is fun. So I have basically said all year that the Chiefs feel kind of inevitable. They're like Thanos, basically. And I had been saying that all year. And as it gets down to it, I'm taking the Buffalo Bills.
Oh,
I'm taking the Bills to win this one. By the way, I think we're both assuming Patrick Mahomes is going to find a way to play.
mm-hmm.
Rashad Breeland playing is a different story. I don't know if that's going to happen. It's kind of up in the air right now. But I'm taking the Buffalo Bills to win this one. I just feel like that they've been really good these past 8 weeks of football. They didn't look terrific against the Ravens, but there's parts of their game that I was really impressed with, and I think they're going to be able to replicate some of those things. And yeah, I feel really good about the Bills winning this one and bouncing back from that Week 6 loss where they kind of looked like a disaster, because I do want to break down this one. So they missed that game. They lost that game to the Chiefs in Week 6, like you mentioned. Matt Milano was out. Matt Milano is their best coverage tight end, or best coverage linebacker. And one of the things that they've struggled with all years is covering tight end. Matt Milano's job is essentially cover the tight end. I don't know if he'll have as much success against Travis Kelce as he did Mark Andrews, but I think he can limit some of that stuff. They also were dealing with multiple COVID reschedules around that time, I believe. They're also dealing with missing guys. Harrison Phillips and Trent Murphy were both out in that one. I think that I want to say Tre'Davious White was like dealing with something during that game too. So I think with all that, I think that the Bills are able to bounce back and win this.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, this is another one of those. Again, they played the first time, same time, Week 6, and both times I think I think Buffalo had more injuries. Buffalo also, Tremaine Edmonds played. It seems like he wasn't fully healthy in that. I believe Pro Football Focus had that as like a second worst game of the year. So you have to assume he's going to be back and playing well. He played really well against Baltimore last week. So that's a key here. And it should be a very interesting one. Let's start with the Chiefs offense, because what Buffalo did last time, 2 safeties deep, zone coverage, they mix things up a good amount, things like that, which is what you want, right? That's what we always talk about. Play 2 safeties deep. Kansas City just ran the ball all day. Kansas City just said, hey, if you're going to have a second safety deep, we'll take the numbers advantage in the trenches and we'll run the ball. And they were able to get these, 12, 13-yard runs. We don't know if Clyde Edwards-Helaire will be back or not. Clyde Edwards-Helaire will be back or not. But to me, I think that could be, that seems like again, talking about the running game, I think Kansas City, if they can run the ball, this could be issues for Buffalo, whose run defense wasn't great Week 6. It's vastly improved. They did just shut down Baltimore, but they didn't have the extra safety deep against Baltimore, and I think that could be a big difference.
Yeah, and like I said, I think the big thing is that they're not huge guys. They're not like stars on this defense, but I did think Trent Murphy and Harrison Phillips. I think Harrison Phillips is going to play in this one, and I think he's a very good defensive tackle for him. And then being able to run the ball, I think, had to be with him being out of the game. He's not a star defensive tackle, but I think he is good. And I don't love Pro Football Focus, but they did rate him as the third best defender on this Buffalo Bills roster. So you can take that with a grain of salt too. So yeah, I mean, I just think that they're going to be a lot better against the run, and that what we saw against Baltimore with that heavy zone defense is essentially what they're going to have to do again. They're going to have to play a lot of zone against Mahomes, and along with having that zone defense at the back, I think that they're going to be able to get pressure on Mahomes. This Chiefs offensive line is pretty battered right now. I believe I had the depth chart up here. Osmele and Mitchell Schwartz are both out, I believe. So having both of those guys out and the way Jerry Hughes played last week, I feel confident that if even Mahomes plays, I think they're going to be able to get back there and get after him a little bit in this one with their pass rush and sit back in zone defense and let these guys make some plays.
Yeah, it's so interesting because Buffalo, no team more than Buffalo has, I think, improved since like the early part of the season, and so we're looking at that game and sort of like I try to take some stuff from it, but it is fair to say it's almost like two different teams. In Kansas City, I would almost argue no team has gotten worse since that point. I mean, I guess a few teams have, like the Raiders fell off, but in terms of the four left. The Kansas City Chiefs were red hot earlier on in the season, have cooled off, I think, largely due to those injuries. And, the one thing we have to talk about, we don't know if Mahomes is going to play. We assume that Mahomes will play, but, I was assuming Bashaud Breeland would play, but we don't know that either. And so I'm coming in here with some assumptions. And I do think that the Kansas City Chiefs, when healthy, are the better team, but we don't know just how healthy they will be.
Yeah. So I guess my thing is, so if they're able to limit the running game in this one, which I think they will be, where do the Chiefs attack this defense if they're sitting in that zone coverage? Because it's not, it's not as simple as saying, let's just stick Tre'Davious White on a guy like Tyreek Hill, because Tyreek Hill moves so much around the offense that you can't put one guy on him. So if they sit in the zone coverage, I think they ran it like 87% zone against the Ravens, and I think they're going to have to do something pretty similar in this one. I don't think they're going to be able to match up a lot of man-to-man. So where do you think the Chiefs try and attack this defense? Is it try and target Josh Norman?
I mean, Norman hasn't been a mess out there, and he can make big plays. So, I do think that I don't think that's a great shot. I think the real move is run these zone busters and probably just get a lot of underneath coverage and try to have these methodical drives, which usually, I always talk about explosives are important. But I think that, if there's quarterbacks who I trust that can run these 13-play touchdown drives, Mahomes is one of them. He doesn't really turn the ball over. I know lead the league in dropped interceptions, whatever. And that is a factor for Buffalo. You are like, there was a play in the first game where Josh Norman had an opportunity at an interception. I believe it was Josh Norman, and he wasn't able to hold on. So you have these you might have an opportunity or two. You do have to take them. But again, I kind of just disagree with the premise of, I think if the Chiefs can't run the ball, I think they lose. I think that running the ball is going to be crucial. And I don't see Buffalo stopping the run with two safeties deep. One safety deep, maybe. But, I think that's a huge difference in the running game, having that extra guy in the box.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it could be huge. It is tough. I do think those guys in the middle find a way to do it, because I do think that it is going to be imperative that they do it with two safeties deep. But I think one thing that we've seen is that if you have success against stopping both of these run games early, both of these teams are pretty quick to abandon running. I think both teams are okay with kind of saying, okay, we'll just throw the ball 40 times then if you have success early. So if they can get some success early, I do feel like that turns the Chiefs into a pass-oriented team. And I think that's a huge win for the Bills. Even though it is Mahomes, I think it is a huge win if you make them one-dimensional. So I think that they find a way to have some success against the run. It turns the Chiefs pass-heavy pretty early in the game, and that's where it flips. And I don't know. I just feel like the Bills are – if we're looking at the two defenses against the offense, I feel like the Bills are going to be able to have success offensively. I think that this Kansas City defense is very kind of high risk, high reward sort of defense. They go for big plays. They go for turnovers. And if we give Josh Allen credit for one thing, he doesn't make mistakes as much anymore. He doesn't make as many mistakes anymore. And I think he's going to be able to take advantage of that.
Well, yeah. Again, if we're talking individual players who have gotten better at certain things, and I'm not sure if anyone's. Again, it's one of the biggest improvements has been Allen's decision making. He's turned from a goofball to actually a pretty high IQ football player. So you got to give him a lot of credit for that. Okay, let's shift gears now. Let's talk about that side of the ball. We talk about the running game. I think the running game could be important for both of these teams. I think both teams could play a lot of two safeties deep. Kansas City's a little bit different because while they'll play two safeties deep, usually they like to have their safeties a lot shallower and they'll come up to make plays. And, Sorensen and the Honey Badger are both good at coming up and being able to make plays in the running game, even if they are deep. And also, Buffalo seemingly the first time last week forgot that they can run the ball. And one of the ways they were able to finally get some success against the Ravens defense with that one touchdown drive was just running the football. I think that I do trust Andy Reid more than Brian Dabble to get these running lanes going, and that's just respect to Reid, not disrespect to Dabble. But I think that could be another thing, and we can talk about will the Chiefs be able to run the ball. I think there's a much better chance the Chiefs run the ball than Buffalo.
Yeah, I mean, and with that, I do think that defensive line for the Chiefs, I do think that they're going to be able to limit the running game. I think my question for them is, are they able to? I do think that they're going to. I question if they're going to be able to get after Allen. Basically, I wonder if those guys, if Clark and if Jones are going to be able to get after him and kind of force him to make quicker decisions. Because if they're forcing him to make quicker decisions, that's perfect opportunity for Matthew to kind of read a play, make a big play, and cause some turnover. But I think that Allen's going to be able to kind of sit back there and do his thing. I think he's going to be able to have success in this one. I don't know why. I just feel weirdly confident that they're going to be able to move the ball just fine against this Chiefs defense.
Okay, well, I mean, first off, nobody gets pressure on Allen before, like they just don't. So
Yeah.
you got to think that, like, hey, maybe Chris Jones could get pressure up the middle because of how the tackles have played. But for one thing, getting pressure up the middle isn't that big of a deal with Allen because he can just get to the outside. And secondly, Jones was able to get pressure in that first game, but it was against a guard who will not be playing in this game, so it's kind of irrelevant. And so I do think that could be interesting. Do you think Kansas City blitzes often in this game?
I think the solution would be that they have to. The question is, will they? I'm not exactly sure. I think one of the guys that could have some success in a way is Willie Gay. I talked about him during the draft process. He's a guy who didn't play last week. He's a very athletic linebacker who could make some plays and I think cause some pressure, but they don't necessarily always use him that way, so that's a different story. I do think that they would have to blitz. I just don't know if they will enough to be able to make some plays in the backfield.
Yeah, it should be. I think it should be an interest. I think both these games are seemingly going to be awesome. And then the last thing we have to talk about is, Josh Allen and this receiving core. The first time these two teams played, there wasn't a lot of guys open. When Kansas City played man, there wasn't a lot of guys open, and Allen obviously had a bad day in that one as well. Now, again, how much can you take into that? Some, not a lot. Allen's has. I didn't think he was great last week. His numbers weren't great. Again, I said that the weather was a factor, and people still, God forbid you ever say Josh Allen. And part of it too, maybe I wasn't clear. I expect Allen to be great now. So when Allen has a good game, like to me, that's not good enough at this point in the season. So I do think that that's something interesting. And while the weather wasn't great the first time these two teams played, the weather, I looked at the report, it seemingly is going to be about the same, in this game in Kansas City as it was in Buffalo the first time they played. Should be 50% chance of rain, should be about the same temperature, a little bit warmer the first time they played, but not a lot. So, that is maybe a bit concerning. But as you said, there could be injuries at stake here for Kansas City. And that's why I love Kansas City when healthy. It becomes a much more interesting game now because I do think Buffalo is healthy now, and that'll change it. Like if Rashad Breeland doesn't play, it's a complete difference maker.
Well, not only that, Breeland and Fenton are both questionable to play in this one, and I think that's a big thing. If Breeland can't play, I'm very confident in Buffalo winning this one. And not to mention, from that Week 6 game, I think Diggs and Allen have gotten a lot better since Week 6. So I think that that's something that's going to be able to favor Buffalo is that, obviously Diggs and Allen have a better connection. And if Breeland's not in the game to defend him, I feel really good about Diggs being able to make plays. So I think it's going to be interesting. I do think that, I honestly see both teams being able to move the ball in this one, don't you? I see both offenses kind of having success. As they have all year. I think this is number 1 and 2 in offense for the season. I don't think anyone really gets stifled. It's just, can one team come up with a turnover? Can one team come up with a big play? And right now, I think I'm trusting this Bills defensive line and what they did to the Ravens. I do feel confident with the injuries on the Chiefs offensive line that they're going to be able to make more big plays in this one than the Chiefs.
I think that's kind of crazy. I think that the idea that this, I think I trust Patrick Mahomes way more to not make many mistakes. And I think I trust, Kansas City's sort of whole defense is built around, let's just have like solid players everywhere and then a few big playmakers who can make those splash plays.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Tyrann Mathieu could easily come up with a huge interception in this one that changes everything, and immediately it turns into a 14-point swing for Kansas City. But I think that the way Dabble's design play is to avoid some big players on defense and also isolate Diggs in big situations to get big yards, and also use Beasley to his absolute best as they have basically from week 10 on. I think that they're going to be able to have success and avoid Matthew at the same time.
Yeah. I also like this comment, which is unrelated. How did Jackson's pick go against the Packers last week? Haha. I picked the Packers to win last week. I don't know what you're talking about.
I picked against the Packers. It did
Yeah.
not go well.
Yeah. Become team. Maybe he's, become team Jackson, not team Kyle. Clearly, I'm higher on Green Bay.
Although I picked Green Bay to win this week. So,
yeah. It's crazy how the playoff, one game can completely
change your opinion.
Yeah.
So one more thing I'm interested in this, or there's a lot I'm interested in this game, but one thing I think is interesting, couldn't you see, because we're both picking the opposite side, couldn't you see the special teams just screwing everything up for one of us? Like, Tyler Bass has clearly been a little shaky throughout the season, or he was shaky last week too.
Yeah, I don't know how much I want to put in the last. If Justin Tucker's missing field goals, I'm blaming the weather. That's kind of my mindset.
And it seems like Harrison Butker is just about good for a missed extra point just about every week.
Yeah.
So, I mean, as good as he is from 50, he's terrible from 35 and in, it seems like. So, couldn't you see one of these special teams just completely blowing a 10-play drive and derailing this for us?
Yeah. Luke Brown says, Team Kyle all day, bro. Banned for life. Banned Luke Brown for life. No. But I mean, yeah. Probably not. I feel like I trust both these kickers. I mean, again, the weather could be an issue, but they're good kickers. I'm not gonna. I think that, I think they'll probably be fine. I don't feel a way about this game that I don't feel about any other game. You could probably say the same thing about most kickers in most situations. I feel fine.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I just think it's another storyline to watch is how these kickers come back.
Yeah, should be interesting. All right. So, do we have any final thoughts on this one?
Did we cover everything?
I feel like we covered. Yeah, I was thinking. I feel like I had more to say, but I can't think of anything right now.
Yeah, I think we just about covered everything. It'll be interesting. I do think that the Chiefs' potential guys out in Breland, obviously Mahomes, but Breland and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I think, could decide a lot in this game.
Yeah, I just think Mahomes will play. I just think that there's, if they have to put a mechanical brain in him, he'll find a way to play.
Yeah, I mean, I think he plays. It's the other two that I have questions about.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Should be a great game. This is, who would have thought, 5 years ago or maybe 10, these two teams, two of the most tortured franchises, and one of them is coming off a Super Bowl win, the other hottest team in football. Cool stuff.
Yeah, especially, I mean, who would have thought last year Josh Allen's playing in an AFC championship?
Right. Yeah, who would have, exactly. It's like, oh, hey, the Chiefs might have a better roster, but at least the Bills have Josh Allen. Like, who would have thought that we'd be saying that last year?
Yeah, that's true. It's been fun stuff. What a year. I can't believe it's down to 3 games, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see these two teams match up. This is fine. We wanted the the Chiefs and Ravens so badly last year. We didn't get it. This year, we wanted the Bills and Chiefs rematch with everyone healthy on the Bills. We finally get it. I think this is going to be, like I said, I think if you go from like week 12 on, these are the best 4 teams in football, and we get to see them.
Yeah, it's funny because, I think when we were doing the preview, I said, like, please, God, let us get Ravens Chiefs in the playoffs. We're not getting that, and I think it's for the best. I think the better team is here.
Yeah. No, I agree. So
not exactly a hot take.
No. What do you got for score here?
I had Chiefs 27, Bills 24, but I also think it'll be a low possession game. I think it'll be like a 9 possession game. So a bit of a lower score, but I think it'll be a high scoring, low possession game.
Okay. I got Bills 34, Chiefs 28 in overtime. Overtime touchdown wins it. The second time Mahomes loses on the overtime rule.
Okay. I like how we both have a game that's going into overtime in this.
Yeah, overtime playoff football. It's great stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I think Saints fans would disagree from a couple years ago, but let's move on. So that's it for the games, obviously. But I thought this could be a fun segment. I'm going to go over some potential storylines that could emerge. Some of them are already kind of here, but just sort of some storylines. I thought we could talk about them and say, this could be what's at stake for this game, or this is just something that the stupid media will talk about and we'll be annoyed for a month about it. But either way, I thought that we'll get into it, and we'll start with the NFC. I think that this is going to be a storyline if the Bucs win. I think people are going to talk about Aaron Rodgers' playoff failures, even though I don't think it's really that fair. I think that, you look at the losses he's had, almost none of them have been his fault. But I do think that that'll be a storyline that comes out of it if they lose.
Yeah, I think so. People are definitely going to find a way to talk about it, but I mean, he's what, 26-3 in the regular, or 26-6 in the regular season the last 2 years, back-to-back NFC championships. You can hardly blame Rodgers for anything. I mean, I don't think that. I think Rodgers has already cemented himself as one of the best players ever at the quarterback position. I don't think any of the playoff failures, like you said, have been necessarily his fault. So I think it's a little crazy, but at the same time, if you don't win Super Bowls, you're essentially like the worst player ever. That's how people view it.
Yeah, and Brady really completely skewed everything else with him winning 6. It just, now everyone else, it's like, what, only one Super Bowl? What's wrong? Like, winning a Super Bowl is really hard.
Yeah, it is. I mean, yeah, it really is. And Brady winning 6 is obviously fantastic, but if you did his career probably 100 times, he's winning 6 Super Bowls, only a few of them, you bet.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, so that's something I figured to talk about. Here's this one. It's already a factor. I think this one, you have probably have something to say about it, being a Patriots fan.
Oh,
Brady greater than Belichick. Listen, it's out there. It's already out there. It will be out there, especially if Tom Brady wins. You're going to get 2 weeks of, was Belichick even good?
Yeah. How important is Bill Belichick?
Yeah.
Listen, we have 20 years of evidence that say these two are both the greatest at their respective spot. I do think it's ridiculous that we continue this storyline based on one season with a quarterback at 43 going to a team with much better weapons compared to Bill Belichick having to scrap together this team after the post-Tom Brady years and all these opt-outs. I just think it's kind of ridiculous, but it's a fun storyline.
Yeah, I just love how I'm pretty sure that there are people who have both said Tom Brady is a system quarterback and Bill Belichick has only had success because of Tom Brady.
Yeah, shockingly, when you put the two together, it works out pretty well.
Yeah, again, dumb storyline, but it will be there. So here's one. I think if the Bucs lose and the offense doesn't look good, which I think is possible, I think this will be a storyline. Should Bruce Arians be fired? I think that could be. I don't think he will be fired. I mean, you go to the NFC Championship game, but I do think people are going to. Coaching will be the first criticism if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers lose, no matter what happens.
Of course it will, because it's not, they're not going to blame Brady for it. I think that the first thing is going to be blaming the coach, and that's an easy thing to do. I know I'm definitely guilty of doing it sometimes too, where I just immediately say, well, the coaching stinks. But I don't know. The Arians thing is interesting. They've invested a lot in Tom Brady and winning in these next 2 seasons. So if they look bad in this game, if they look miles behind the Packers, what could the Bucs honestly do between now and then to improve themselves to that level?
I mean, I think logically you say, let's not overreact to one game. The Packers looked awful in a game, and if they went to the Super Bowl, I think the mindset should be, if we can make improvements, sure, but don't be afraid to just run it back with this team and take another go at it.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I think that's probably is what happens. I'm interested to see how this Eagles job also lands out, because it sounds like Todd Bowles is in the running. So I'm interested to see how that plays out and what this Bucs staff and team looks like. If they do, like you said, if they do look bad, I think that could be an interesting storyline, but I do think that they're not going to make anything like rash.
Yeah. And also, in fairness, I'm pretty sure the Eagles are interviewing everybody. Like, I think you might get a call in a couple of weeks for an interview.
Hey, I would love to work with Carson Wentz.
Yeah, there you go.
Eagles, call me.
Here's another one, and I kind of set this up. If the Buccaneers win, should Bruce Arians be in the Hall of Fame? I think that these are 2 things that could legitimately happen with the storyline. I mean, and you look at Bruce Arians' resume. He's, the playoff success hasn't been perfect, but he's won Coach of the Year twice. And if he were to win a Super Bowl, I think it would immediately erase all of the criticism of this season. And I do think that he would, in 5 years, we'll look back and say, hey, Bruce Arians, 2-time Coach of the Year, won a Super Bowl. 1 Super Bowl is all it took for Tony Dungy. Could Bruce Arians? Do you think that this storyline could emerge?
I mean, he probably is in if he wins it, right? I mean,
I
I
would
don't
say
think
so.
this is
Yeah,
a storyline. This what?
I would say so. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think this is a storyline. I think this is realistic that he gets in if he does because of his success in the past and this year.
I wanted to put those two together just because I find it so funny of how fickle we are as sports fans, where these could
Yeah,
both be
exactly.
storyline. All right, well, here's another good one. So this is both AFC and NFC. If the Bills and the Buccaneers win, the Bills trying to win a Super Bowl finally have this opportunity, and now you got to go through Tom Brady once again.
I mean, so if we really think about it, if we look at these 4 games, like I'm not sure this is the best matchup, but this is definitely the most hilarious, right?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
if they play each other and like Brady goes for like 350 and like 3 touchdowns against the Bills and wins it, like that's the funniest storyline ever. Is that the Bills do all this work to get to the Super Bowl just to lose to Tom Brady again, who's no longer in their division? Like that'd be hilarious. But
Well, and it could even be. I mean, you're thinking about it from that perspective. On the flip side, though, if I don't want this to happen because I'm a Bucs fan, but if the Bills beat Brady in the Super Bowl, how vindicating would that be to finally get that first ring and beat, the boogeyman?
yeah, honestly, if Brady beats the Bills in the Super Bowl, I'm pretty sure there'd be like I'm pretty sure there'd be like an arrest warrant out in Buffalo for Brady. Like he wouldn't be allowed in the city limits.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he is allowed there now.
That's true. Yeah.
Especially if it's a missed field goal in the last second. You know what? I
Oh,
don't
yeah.
want. I'm a Bucs fan. I don't want that to happen. I would feel so bad for Bills fans.
They're gonna be in the comments about this. They're gonna be like, "Hey, f you guys,"
Yeah, we love the Bills. I love the Bills. Kyle hates the Bills. I love the Bills. All
I
right.
picked the Bills.
Still, here's another one. This one's not really for next week, but for this one, the Bills traded the pick that was Patrick Mahomes. I do feel like, if Mahomes were to go off and have 400 yards and 5 touchdowns, there would be some like, hey, Josh Allen's great, but you could have had that guy. Or if the Bills win, I think that it could completely sort of erase all of the talk of you could have had Mahomes. If the Bills win a Super Bowl, they're going to say, who cares? Josh Allen won a Super Bowl anyways.
Yeah, I mean, this isn't even a potential storyline. Right here,
Right.
ESPN.com. This is written by Marcel Louis Jacques. Anyway, the headline, I'll read this off you. Buffalo Bills can justify trading Patrick Mahomes' pick by reaching Super Bowl.
There you go.
No, it's not even a potential storyline. It is
That's
a
just
storyline.
there. Yeah. I should have. That would have been a much better move for me. I should have just read ESPN. I could have gotten all my stuff here. So here, change it.
We could have
Storyline.
watched all of First Take this morning and got every storyline we needed.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, final potential storyline that could come out. This is one that won't make you happy, but it'll be out there. Mahomes, is he the GOAT? That'll be out there. If Mahomes wins this, goes to a Super Bowl, people are going to bring it up. I mean, it has been, the best start to a season since probably Brady. And, even Mahomes has an MVP at this point. It took Brady a couple more years to get one, I believe. I forget. You would know better than I would when he won his first. But this is going to be out there. Yeah.
He won it in year 2. He
did
threw
he?
3 passes in year 1 as a backup, and then in year 2 he won it.
No, I'm MVP, not Super Bowl.
Oh, MVP. Yeah, his first was in 07. So,
Gotcha.
yeah, I mean, I get it. Like, I mean, there's always this conversation about it, but it's just like, I mean, I think the argument has always been that I've had is like, Rodgers and Mahomes are probably more purely talented than Brady, but like they got to build the resume a little bit. They got to build the resi a little to put up to Brady's numbers. But I mean, I get it.
You just call it the Resi?
The resi, yeah, you got to build that resi to get the job, get the bag. So
I didn't realize you came with. It sounds like it doesn't sound like a Gen Z slang. It sounds like a boomer slang trying to talk like to a Gen Z person.
yes, basically, yeah, it sounds about right. I'm old at heart, so
Okay.
I mean, yeah, I mean they got to build the resume a little more. Take a little time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. But here's what I will say: Mahomes has an opportunity to be the GOAT. Like he has that. He's started off where if you're gonna wake up in 25 years or 30 years and have to they'll say, and I don't know why you sleep for so long, and they'll say you win $1 million if you can predict who is the new GOAT. It's no longer Brady. Mahomes is going to be your first pick.
Yeah, I mean, it probably is. I mean, this is such a generational thing too, right? Like that's just kind of what it is. Like there is people out there who swore that nobody would be better than Kareem Abdul-Jabbar at basketball. And then Jordan came along, and now there's 40-year-olds who swear nobody will ever be better than Michael Jordan at basketball. And then LeBron comes around, and there's 20-year-olds out there that will swear that nobody was ever better than LeBron James at basketball.
And we all know that the true GOAT is Kobe.
Oh God, don't do that. So, I think the thing is, there's going to be people down the line who are looking, there's going to be people down the line who never saw Brady play or saw the end of Brady play and say, oh, Mahomes is the best player ever. Mahomes is my guy. Or there's going to be people who go on like Football Reference and say, oh, Drew Brees is the best player ever because all of his numbers are the best. And it's going to be like,
not so much anymore.
No, but I mean, yeah. So I just think it's purely a generational thing, but I get it. I just don't think it's not a conversation I'm ready to have.
Yeah, I mean, it's way too early to be having this, but again, if we're talking about what's going to be on First Take, I'm sure it's on there. If you're watching this podcast when it's airing, turn it on. I'm sure they'll be talking about it.
Max Kellerman is definitely arguing for Mahomes to be the best quarterback ever.
Yes. All right. So that's all the potential storylines I had. It should be a fun week. A lot to talk about. And I love those dumb storylines. I think they're great. Even if they're stupid, I just think they're fun.
Yeah, I mean, they are. That's why First Take is so highly rated. They're fun storylines. It's stuff we can debate at work, so it's fun.
Yes, exactly. So last thing before we end this show, Phillip Rivers, number 17, retiring after 17 years. Well, I'll just talk about. I mean, Phillip Rivers, one of the best of all time, he's a unbelievable player, unbelievable career, and in my opinion, I think he should be a Hall of Famer. I think he's earned that.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's a Hall of Famer. I mean, I don't know if there's a debate that he's not. He was, if you look at that, it was him, Roethlisberger, and Manning in the same draft class, right?
Mm-hmm. And Matt Schaub.
And Matt Schaub, excuse me. I mean, that's an insane draft class anyway. I mean, I think you argue that he's probably – I mean, his numbers are probably better than Ben's and Eli's. I don't have them in front of me.
I do have them in front of me.
Okay. So
yes.
I'm assuming his numbers are better than Ben's and Eli's, but he obviously doesn't have the hardware.
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate that I talked earlier about how I think we put too much stock into if you've won a Super Bowl, how many Super Bowls have you won? I think that sometimes it's justified. To me, I think Brady's the best of all time because his numbers are also the best. Next year he'll break Drew Brees' passing yards record. Like he's going to have every record along with the 6 Super Bowls. I think how you perform in the playoffs matters. But yeah, I have the numbers in front of me. I made a video, sort of just me talking, but a video about it where you look at Rivers. So this is interesting. I can't explain this. This makes zero sense to me, Kyle. So I checked passer rating, yards per attempt, yards per game, interceptions per game, and touchdowns per game. Those were the 5 stats I used. Phillip Rivers is exactly 1 unit of measurement higher in each of those categories. Rivers had 7.8 yards per attempt, Roethlisberger 7.7. Each category, 1 unit of measurement, including interceptions per game. Rivers is slightly ahead, which means that he's thrown more, 0.87 to 0.86. How does that happen?
Yeah, I don't know. That's pretty crazy. It's interesting. Yeah, I mean,
and Eli Manning also way worse than all those stats.
Well, of course he is. Yeah, I mean, Manning definitely didn't compare to those two as far as talent, but I mean, obviously he has the hardware to back himself up, which means everything. And he beat the Patriots twice, which doesn't happen very often, So I think Rivers is an interesting. I think he's the conversation of why playoff record doesn't matter for like Hall of Fame purposes and why he was important to the game. But obviously, if you're having a greatest quarterback of all time debate, it seriously knocks his performance down towards probably the mid-teens to low 20s as to where he fits in the greatest quarterbacks ever rankings because he didn't have that playoff performance. They had some bad luck. I think it was 2007 was the game he played through torn ACL.
Mhm.
They had another one where it was him and LT, and they looked like they were completely dominated, and they had a bad playoff game. Those are two teams that, every quarterback has these opportunities throughout their career. They just didn't bounce Phil Rivers' way. It's bad luck, but it's also a thing that it also kind of matters to win those games in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah. Again, I have the playoff stats as well. Passer rating is interesting because it's Rivers is 85.3, Roethlisberger 86.4, and Eli Manning 87.4. So they're almost 1 point ahead. Weirdly, Eli Manning gets better in the playoffs, so I don't know what's going on with his deal. But and I think that was largely just from that one big run. But yeah, I think that's what does hurt Rivers is, and his numbers. I mean, his passer rating goes down 10 points in the playoffs, but part of that is you play better teams in the playoffs. Everyone's stats go down in the playoffs for the most part, with the exception of Eli Manning. And his numbers are right there with Roethlisberger's and Big Ben was not the reason they won that first Super Bowl. I'm a big Rivers defender. I think that Rivers is very good. His career is incredible. He was basically a fringe top 5 quarterback for most of his career, and he has the longevity. And I think hopefully he'll be wearing a gold jacket one day. I do think there's a debate. I think that there's a chance he doesn't get it, but I hope he does.
Yeah, I do too. Top 5 penis of all time too. Being able to turn out all those kids.
Oh, I was about to say, was there like an image, like a leak I missed or something?
No, he's more accurate with that than he is with the football, surprisingly. He's just on fire with that.
Yes. Let's clip out that just top 5 penis of all time from next week. Kyle will be giving his top 5 penises of all time ranking.
We have to end the podcast awkward every time. So
yes. So there we go. Yeah. Couldn't get better than that. All right. So that's our show. Thanks to everyone for watching. Again, if you missed it at the beginning of the show, our next show, Sunday night, 11 p.m. Eastern. So an hour earlier than most of our shows have been. Be on the lookout for that one. And Kyle, let them know where they can find you.
Yeah. Follow us at Jackson Kruger on Twitter, at by Kyle Gronin on Twitter. That's GRONDIN. By Kyle Gronin on Twitter, and also follow our account page for the YouTube for the podcast. That's at On the Sideline JK. At On the Sideline JK. I tweet out during the games on Sundays, and it's good stuff. So make sure to follow us.
Yes, Luke Brown. Kyle, need to calm down, bro. That's about your penis talk. All right, let's move. Let's end the show. Thanks to everyone for watching. We appreciate it. We'll see you next time. And as always, have a good one.
Peace.